Morning, everybody.
Good morning, Rabbi.
This week's parsha is Pekudei, and Pekudei discusses the conclusion of the building of the Mishkan and how Moshe Rabbeinu actually was involved in doing what was supposed to be done in the Mishkan for the first 8 days, showing the Kohanim and the Leviim what they have to do, and then it was activated that they started to do it themselves. So there's actually something very interesting about it, which is different than the regular understanding that we usually have about it. Going back a little bit, the commandments were first to make the vessels, and then to make the actual tabernacle. So Bezalel did it exactly the opposite. First he built the tabernacle, and then he built the vessels, saying you need to have where to house the vessels. And Moshe Rabbeinu said, okay, makes sense. Now, when it came to Moshe Rabbeinu actually dedicating and utilizing and doing everything, putting it all together, he actually also did it in the opposite way. As the Pasuk says, for example, Pasuk says, Vayasem Vayakter olav Ketores Samim. Moshe Rabbeinu offered the spices, the incense, the Ketores, as Hashem commanded, and then it says he placed the curtain at the opening, meaning to say he first operated inside the room before the room was completely finished, because he had to put the curtain he put the curtain at the end of the room only afterwards. And there are a couple examples like this in the pasuk. So the question is asked: if everything is supposed to be built first, why did Moshe Rabbeinu first do the avodah and start to dedicate the vessels and the furniture pieces inside the Mishkan without finishing that actual room, that section in the Mishkan? So the explanation is, and afterwards, it was done the other way around. What's afterwards? Because every time the Jewish people traveled, they had to take apart the Mishkan, put it onto the wagons, then put it back up, and only after everything was concluded and finished and built, then practice of the Mishkan started to happen. They didn't do it like Moshe Rabbeinu did it, then first, finish with the vessels, then conclude the room. They did it the way it was properly done. So in that case, the question goes back to Moshe Rabbeinu, why did he do it differently? So the explanation is that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was doing it, first of all, before it was official. He was doing this as a practice run, but also because it was a practice run, he was able to do things a little differently for the future generations. And usually, the way it works in our service to Hashem, we want to build a tabernacle, we want to build a place for Hashem, you got to go step by step. You first do step 1, then you do step 2, then you do step 3. That's how you grow. That's the normal way of doing things, so you could connect with what you're actually doing versus just doing things that are beyond us. But there are extreme times that a person has to just jump into the water. You just got to take it all the way. And then later you pick up the pieces and you figure out what you did, what you didn't do. And this is what Moshe Rabbeinu used this opportunity to be able to have that experience as well for the future generations. When we need to have that experience, we have what to fall back on that Moshe Rabbeinu already paved the way for us. So this is something that in general we have to sometimes say, I'm not ready for this yet. You're not ready for it, but maybe jumped into it anyway, because then when you jump into it, then you'll become ready for it. Sometimes you have to go one step at a time when you're developing something, but when you're not developing anything yet, and you didn't build a Mishkan yet, and you have nothing in front of you, and you have nothing what to work with, then sometimes you got to just jump into the water. You got to go all the way to the deep end. You got to make it happen, and then you can start working backwards. So this is an interesting point, depending on where you're holding. If you're in the middle of something, then you have to go step by step. But if you're not in the middle of anything, you're never going to get there. You have to make that big move. There's that big move to start the whole engine, to get everything going. So that's a very important thing that we learn from Moshe Rabbeinu. There's a lot of stuff in the Chumash that is very, very practical. If you read between the lines, there's a lot of messages here. Very, very powerful message. So Hashem should help. We should be able to go from step to step. And wherever we're not holding steps yet, we should be able to take the elevator, go all the way up to the roof. Hashem should help. We should have a wonderful day. Only good things. B'karav mamish. Amen.